ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। So as you know, we will be discussing the second discussion on the life of Sri Ramakrishna. The first time we had discussed his how his father came to Kamarpukur, etc., etc. We'll just recapitulate that, and today we will discuss Sri Ramakrishna's life in Kamarpukur. So first we will just recapitulate what we discussed last time. So those through the photographs we had seen last time. So let me share. So let's start with the Dere village. This is Kshudiram's pond in the Dere village. We know that first Shudiram, Sri Ramakrishna's father, lived in this village. Another view of Dere village we have seen last time. And this is the temple of Sri Ramakrishna in that village where Shudiram lived earlier. This is the ruins of that Zamindar. So as we have seen last time that Shudiram, Sri Ramakrishna's father, was asked to give a false testimony on the behalf of the evil Zamindar of the village, Ramananda. So these are the ruins of Ramananda's property, this also. So since Shudiram refused to give a false evidence, he was asked to leave the village and he came to Kamarpukur. So this we have seen last time, the map of Kamarpukur. How far is it from Calcutta? Another map of Kamarpukur, here you can see it clearly. Jarambati and Kamarpukur and Shihor, they are all clearly visible here. So this is a view of Kamarpukur where Shudiram had come to spend the rest of his life, and where, as you know, Sri Ramakrishna was born. This is the paddy field which Shudiram owned, which was given to him by his friend. So paddy is being sown here. We have seen this last time. And this is the cottage of Shudiram where Sri Ramakrishna was born. This is another view of Kamarpukur we saw last time. This is the Haldarpukur, which we discussed that Shudiram had his daily bath in this pond. And this is the family deity of Shudiram. See, all the deities can be seen here. Raghuvir, Shila, and all the other you can see. And Sri Ramakrishna's and Holy Mother's photo are also there. So this is the shrine as it exists today. Here is the close-up view of the deities. And as we have seen, Shri Ram had gone to Gaya where he had the divine vision. This is the Gaya temple. This is the deity of the temple. And Shri Ram had seen that his forefathers had appeared before me, and then God himself appeared and promised Shudiram that he would be born as his son. This is the footprint in the shrine of Gaya, home of Sri Ramakrishna, and the Shiva temple where Sri Ramakrishna's mother had the vision that Shiva had a light had come out of the temple and entered her, and that she had become pregnant. This is the inside of that Shiva temple. Another image of that Shiva temple. This is the horoscope of Sri Ramakrishna. This is where Sri Ramakrishna was born. This is a very old photograph. This does not exist now. Now, as you know, a temple has come up in that place. This is also a very old photo of Sri Ramakrishna's home, Shudiram's cottage. And this is as it exists today. You can see Sri Ramakrishna's cottage in the background. And in the front is the temple, Raghuveer temple, where the image worshipped by Shudiram has been kept, and it is a stone emblem is still worshipped. This is the temple where Sri Ramakrishna was born, and there stands now a temple of Sri Ramakrishna, as you all know. And this is the hut where Sri Ramakrishna was born, as we saw last time. This is the bedroom, Sri Ramakrishna's room. This is the Sri Ramakrishna school where Sri Ramakrishna studied. These are Sri Ramakrishna's classmates. So all this we have seen last time. So now where we had left last time, that Gadadhar or the young Sri Ramakrishna did not show much interest in his school studies, because the whole of his attention was directed to the study of the lives and characters of spiritual people. He did not want, as he said, only a bread-winning education. He saw that the education which boys received only helped them to maintain their livelihood. But he wanted something else. He wanted something which would satisfy him forever, which was much greater, getting which there would be no want of any kind. So he said that I don't want any bread-winning education, and he did not thus show any interest in book learning. So now, as Sri Ramakrishna gave up his school studies and gave all his attention to the study of the lives and character of spiritual heroes, he became so much immersed in all those that he often became forgetful of the world and went into deep meditation. So as he grew older, he began to have spiritual ecstasies whenever his religious feelings were aroused. And it was found that not only religious subjects, but even some very beautiful scenery or some touching incident was sufficient to make him lose himself and become completely immersed in some kind of spiritual mood. So he had experienced this spiritual ecstasy many times in his childhood, and once it became so deep that it caused great anxiety to his parents and relatives. So this is where we had left last time, and we were supposed to discuss the first spiritual ecstasy of Sri Ramakrishna. What happened then? Let's see. In the words of Sri Ramakrishna himself, we will describe what happened, because he narrated this afterwards to his disciples. So first, let us see what Sri Ramakrishna had actually seen. Of course, we can just see a painting of that. So from that, we will have an idea that what he actually saw that threw him into such a deep spiritual mood. So I will just share that painting with you. So this is what Sri Ramakrishna had seen. Dark clouds, rainy clouds, and white, absolutely white swan flying against that cloud, which created a wonderful contrast. So about this first ecstasy, let's see what Sri Ramakrishna himself had said. So I quote him. He narrated later, he said, in that part of the country means Kamarpukur, where Sri Ramakrishna was born. So in Kamarpukur, the boys are given puffed rice for snack. This they carry in small wicker baskets, or if they are too poor, in a corner of their cloth. Then they go out for play on the roads or in the fields. One day in June or July, when I was 6 or 7 years old, I was walking along a narrow path separating paddy fields, eating some of the puffed rice which I was carrying in a basket. Looking up at the sky, I saw a beautiful somber thunder cloud. As it spread rapidly, enveloping the whole sky, a flock of snow-white cranes flew overhead across it. It presented such a beautiful contrast that my mind wandered to far-off regions. Lost to outward sense, I fell down, and the puffed rice was scattered in all directions. Some people found me in that plight and carried me home in their arms. This was the first time I completely lost consciousness in ecstasy. So this is the description which Sri Ramakrishna himself gave of his first spiritual ecstasy. But since he became completely unconscious and fell on the ground, his parents became extremely worried. They thought that their child had become sick or something. But afterwards, when Gadadhar regained normal consciousness, he repeatedly told his parents that this incident was the result of his mind becoming merged in a new and amazing feeling. And contrary to outward appearance, from outside he appeared to be unconscious. But actually, Gadadhar said that inside he had been fully conscious all the time and had experienced wonderful bliss. So from this description, we can have an idea of some features of spiritual ecstasy or spiritual bliss. So Sri Ramakrishna says a very significant thing, that his mind became merged in a new and amazing feeling. So this feeling was completely different from any worldly experience. During the world, we experience joy when we come in contact with different objects of the world. But from Sri Ramakrishna's words, we can make out that spiritual joy is completely opposite. That occurs when the mind becomes completely free from its connection with the objects of the world and dives deep within oneself. And secondly, Sri Ramakrishna says that outwardly he was unconscious, but actually he was fully conscious. So it is not that spiritual ecstasy makes us unconscious. That consciousness which spiritual ecstasy brings is much more deeper than ordinary consciousness. Ordinary consciousness makes us see through the organs, Like when we are conscious, we see through our eyes, ears, we hear through our ears, see through our eyes, etc. But in this type of experience, a person feels that he is experiencing something much deeper than the experience of the world. And third thing, Sri Ramakrishna says that he had experienced wonderful bliss. Wonderful bliss. So this bliss is completely different from any kind of worldly pleasure. It is a much higher bliss. So these are the hints we can get about the nature of spiritual ecstasy from Sri Ramakrishna's words. And as we all know, this was not the only time he had such an experience. Another time was during Shivratri. So we have some photos made and some images also made. So here you can see there is an image made to mark this occasion, and Sri Ramakrishna is standing dressed as Shiva in ecstasy. So what actually had happened was, once during Shivratri, a drama was arranged on the story of Shiva. But the boy who was originally to play the role of Shiva became sick. So then the villagers who knew that Sri Ramakrishna was very good at acting, they requested Sri Ramakrishna to play the part of Shiva, and Sri Ramakrishna agreed. And he appeared on the stage in the role of a Shiva, in the costume of matted hair, Rudraksha rosaries, and body covered with ashes, as Shiva usually is. But such was his mind, such was his pure mind, that as soon as he became adorned like Shiva, his mind became immersed in the reality which Shiva represents. Shiva represents the supreme reality. So when he was adorned as Shiva, he completely forgot himself. He completely forgot that he was Gadadhar, etc., a boy in Kamarpukur and all that. He became so much imbued with that feeling that he again lost his external consciousness, and his mind was immersed in the reality which Lord Shiva represents. So this was another experience. Now we will come to a very detailed description of the third time that Sri Ramakrishna experienced this kind of spiritual ecstasy. So this photo, this is the place, those who know Bengali can read there, Shri Shri Vishalokhi Matar Mandir. So Vishalakshi, the temple is Vishalakshi. Of course, all this is a modern construction. In those days, it was not like this. So this is the temple which Sri Ramakrishna was visiting at that time, along with some ladies of the village. And we have a very detailed description. So Sri Ramakrishna himself, about this, he had said, I experienced one of my first ecstasies when I was 10 or 11 years old, as I was going through a meadow to the shrine of Vishalakshi. What a vision! I became completely unconscious of the outer world. So this is what Sri Ramakrishna himself said, but this incident Sri Ramakrishna has not described in detail himself. So we will see what Swami Sardhananda, in his wonderful book Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga, how Swami Sardhananda ji describes this incident in detail. So I will quote from that book now. He writes, once when Gadadhar saw some women on their way to Anur, he insisted upon going with them. Anur is a place, the temple is there in Anur. So although the ladies tried to discourage Gadadhar, thinking it would be hard for him to walk such a distance, the boy followed them without paying any attention to their words. While joyfully walking with the woman, Gadai was the Gadadhar used to be called Gadai for short. So Gadai told stories and sang songs about gods and goddesses to them. But as Gadai was crossing the field, singing of the glory of the goddess Vishalakshi, an extraordinary incident took place. Suddenly, he appeared to be stricken dumb. His body stiffened and became numb. His body became stiff and became numb. Tears poured from his eyes. He did not respond when the woman asked if he felt ill. He could not respond. He was in another world then. So, as they knew the boy was unaccustomed to making such a journey, the women were alarmed at the thought that he might have had a sunstroke. They brought water from a nearby pond and splashed it over Gadadhar's head and eyes. But Gadadhar did not regain consciousness. Then those helpless women began to worry. What is the way out of this predicament? What should we do now? So naturally, they became terribly worried. What would they answer? How would they answer Sri Ramakrishna's mother if something happened to the boy? So they encircled Gadai and fanned him, splashed water on him, and called his name, etc. But there was no result. Sri Ramakrishna remained unconscious, so to say. Now, after some time, there was a very highly spiritual lady called Prasanna in that group. About her, we will see later also. So, Prasanna was a very spiritual lady. So, the thought occurred to Prasanna that the goddess Vishalakshi had possessed Gadadhar. That Gadadhar was actually immersed in the thought of the goddess. This occurred to Prasanna. She told her companions, I have heard that gods and goddesses possess simple and pure children, and of course, men and women also. So she then suggested that instead of calling Gadai, let us call Mother Vishalakshi wholeheartedly. This was what she suggested, that actually Vishalakshi had maybe entered Gadadhar's body. So Gadadhar was not himself any longer. So when this suggestion was made, since the women had deep respect for Prasanna because of her noble character, they readily accepted her advice and began to address Gadai as though he were indeed the goddess. So they prayed like in the following manner, O Mother Vishalakshi, be pleased with us, protect us, and so on. And the wonder was that no sooner had the woman called upon the goddess a few times that Gadadhar slowly regained consciousness of the outer world. So Gadadhar soon returned to normal consciousness and he showed no sign of any fatigue or weakness from his ecstasy. So this was the third incident, and this is the deity. This is goddess Vishalakshi, which the women had been visiting at that time. So the first photograph was the temple from the outside, and this is the inner shrine. Okay. So now we come to some other incidents of Gadadhar's childhood in Kamarpukur. His fondness for enacting spiritual plays. As we have seen, Gadadhar did not have much interest in what was being taught in his school. So he and his friends used to skip classes many times, and they would enact spiritual plays by themselves. That is, in Bengali it is called a jatra or yatra. So Gadadhar formed this type of group with his friends and decided to enact spiritual plays amongst themselves. But the boys knew that their guardians would object to this, not going to school and doing all such things. So they wanted to find a secluded place in which they could rehearse. So when they were thinking about such a place, Gadadhar suggested that the secluded mango orchard of Manik Raja was a very good place. Manik Raja was a wealthy person of the village. About him also we will read later. He had many mango orchards maybe. So one of them was selected by Gadadhar and his friends that they would meet there at a particular time and enact spiritual plays. So the plan was soon carried out. Under Gadadhar's direction, the boys quickly learned all the roles and memorized the songs of the dramas based on the lives of Sri Ramchandra and Sri Krishna, and their performance often resounded throughout the mango orchard. So this was one of his pastimes, and Gadadhar's favorite theme were the various incidents in the life of Sri Krishna. So since Gadadhar was fair and had flowing hair, so when a garland would be put on his neck and when he would hold a flute, he would be as if Krishna personified. So Gadadhar was deeply absorbed in these divine sports and soon lost whatever little taste he had for school education and engaged himself more and more in the study of the epics. Epics means Ramayana and Mahabharata and Puranas also. So we will just see some photos of the mango orchard. This is a very old photo of the mango orchard of Manik Raja, where Gadadhar and his friends enacted spiritual plays. And this is a later photograph, more recent photograph of the mango orchard. Of course, at that time there must have been many more trees and all that. So from this we can just have a faint idea, but the place is more or less the same. The place remains the same where Sri Ramakrishna enacted plays with his friends. So Manik Raja, as we know, owned these mango orchards. So who was Manik Raja? So about him it is said that 1 mile north of Kamarpukur is Bhursubu village. And Manik Chandra Bandopadhyay, an extremely wealthy man, lived there. So Manik Raja's actual name was Manik Chandra Bandopadhyay. He was known as Manik Raja to the people of surrounding villages. Raja, Raja actually means king. But it is also applied, this term is also applied to very wealthy persons. So besides owning the mango orchard, he was also well known for constructing some lakes. So I will just share a photo. This is the ruins of Manik Raja's property, and this is the lake. This is one of the lakes which this Manik Raja had made. Hathi Sair it is called. So he had constructed this lake and also another one. So now Kshudiram had such a wonderful pious nature that Manik Raja had became friends with him, although there was a big difference in their social standing. But Manik Raja was such a good person that he recognized the wonderful qualities of Kshudiram and established a friendly relation with him. And one day Gadadhar, when he was only 6 years old, had gone with his father to Manik Raja's house. And there Gadadhar behaved in such a sweet and intimate way that he became very dear to Manik Raja's whole family. Actually, so much so that one day Manik Raja's brother was so impressed with Gadadhar that he said to Kshudiram, Gadadhar's father, that friend, your son is not an ordinary child. He seems to be greatly endowed with divine qualities. Whenever you come here, please bring your son with you. Seeing him gives me real joy. So you see the greatness of these persons, although they were just ordinary persons, so to say, because in the world only persons with wealth and power they are recognized as great. So in the eyes of normal people, they were just ordinary persons, like the brother of Manik Raja. He was just an ordinary person. But still, he recognized Gadadhar's greatness. So this is the wonderful culture and tradition of India, that even in ordinary villages, even in very ordinary surroundings, such people are still there. They lead very ordinary lives as far as the events in their lives go. But still they have that spiritual insight from which they can recognize the divine qualities in extraordinary persons. So this is about Gadadhar's skipping school and enacting religious plays in the mango orchard of Manik Raja. So now we will come to another incident I will narrate, and this is a very touching incident. Touching incident. So see here, what happened was, last class also we read about Dhani. Dhani was an ordinary blacksmith woman. She was from the so-called lower caste, and she was close to Sri Ramakrishna's mother. We have seen last time that when Sri Ramakrishna's mother was standing beside the Shiva temple and she had the vision of a light coming from Shiva temple and entering her, at that time Dhani was with her, and Dhani had also helped at the time of the birth of Sri Ramakrishna. So it is obvious that she was very well acquainted with Sri Ramakrishna's family. And she belonged to a so-called lower caste. That is the thing. Now you see, what happens is, in the villages and also of course the cities, when a Brahmin boy is invested with a holy thread, that is to mark him as a person of the higher caste. And just after this investiture, it is the traditional custom in a Brahmin family that this newly initiated boy should accept his first alms from some relative or at least from a Brahmin of the same social standing. This is the custom, that either the boy would accept his alms from some relative or some Brahmin. Now, Dhani, the blacksmith woman who had tended Gadadhar when he was born, had once prayed to Gadadhar to allow her the privilege of giving him his first alms, which occurs just after a Brahmin boy is given his sacred thread. And Gadadhar, so much he was moved by Dhani's love for him that Gadadhar had agreed. He said, yes, I promise you that after my investiture ceremony, I will accept my first alms from you. This was in total defiance of the social rules which existed at that time. This could not happen. This was, people would be amazed, would be very surprised that Gadadhar could do something like that. Some people may object. But in spite of the objections of other members of the house, Gadadhar kept his promise and accepted his first alms from this so-called lower caste woman in contravention of the time-honored custom of his Brahmin family. So, this shows us the unyielding love of truth. Two things. First, that Gadadhar would never compromise with truth. Once he had promised something to anybody, he would keep it at any cost. And second, he would rise above these social conventions. These social conventions often divide us into higher and lower. So, Sri Ramakrishna, even at that young age, he demonstrated his love for truth and showed that social conventions need not be strictly adhered to all the time. There is something higher than social restrictions also. So this is a very old photo of the house of Dhani, the blacksmith woman. But this does not exist now. There now, as you see in the photo, a temple exists. In this temple, there is only the picture of Dhani attending to Sri Ramakrishna when he was born. So this is the thing. This is a very beautiful incident in Sri Ramakrishna's life where he accepted alms from this poor but very simple and devoted village. So this photo, about the next photo, this is the photo of Sitanath Pine. Sitanath Pine was also connected with Sri Ramakrishna's life. He was a very devoted neighbor and he would often invite Gadadhar to his house. At Sitanath Pine's house, men and women would gather and listen to Gadadhar as he recited stories of Prahlad, Dhruva and other epics, Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc. So, this is the house. Now, this Sitanath Pine was a little, he had some different kinds of views. So I will just narrate an incident, a very interesting incident about this Sitanath Pine and Gadadhar. One second. Yeah, so Sitanath Pine was a rich merchant and he had a huge family. Huge family. He had 7 sons and 8 daughters. Yeah, 7 sons and 8 daughters. That time maybe it was normal. Now Sitanath Pine's daughters lived with their father. Means they lived with Sitanath Pine in a joint household even after their marriages. After their marriage, they did not go to their husband's house. All of them, all the daughters and their husband, etc., all of them lived in Sitanath's Pine house only. So you can imagine what kind of huge house he must have had. So it is said that the family needed such a large volume of spices in their cooking that they had to use 10 stone slabs and pestles to grind them. Maybe once in a once in a month they ground the spices. So huge vessels. You can imagine how many people were in their home, yeah. So in addition, many of Sitanath's distant relatives also lived near his house. So this area was adjacent to Shudiram's house. And many women from these families, including Sitanath's wives and daughters, would often visit Chandra Devi, the mother of Sri Ramakrishna. So they became acquainted with Gadadhar also. So Gadadhar had free access to their house. So now there was another person, this another person of the Pine family, this Durgadas Pine. Durgadas Pine actually was the promulgator of this Parda system. And Durgadas often boasted to Sitanath and other relatives that no outsider had ever seen the women of his household. He boasted about that, this Durgadas Pine. So now, once when Gadadhar happened to be present, Durgadas was bragging to a relative about his enforcement of the Parda system. And Gadadhar, the child Gadadhar, was there. So hearing this, Gadadhar said to Durgadas, "Can women be protected by Parda? They can be protected only through moral education and devotion to God. If I wish, I can visit the women of your household and learn everything about them." So Sitanath Pine was he allowed Gadadhar to his house, but Durgadas Pine was such a fanatic that he would not let even Gadadhar visit the house. But Gadadhar challenged Durgadas and said that if I wish, I can visit the women of your household and learn everything about them. So Durgadas, he was arrogant, so he challenged Gadadhar saying that, okay, we will see how you can do that. So Gadadhar also said, okay, we will see. And he left the place. So after some days, it was afternoon, without telling anybody, Gadadhar dressed himself like a poor weaver woman. Sri Ramakrishna was an expert at disguises even at that young age. So he disguised himself like a poor woman. He put on a dirty sari and some bracelets and the jewelry, etc. And just before it was dark, just before it was dusk, because when it was dark, people would not be able to recognize him, no? So just before it was dark, he went to Durgadas's house from the direction of the market with a basket on his waist and a veil covering his face. So Durgadas was with his friends in the parlor at that time. So Gadadhar came in in a disguise with a veil and all that. And he introduced himself as a helpless weaver woman who had come from a distant village to sell yarn in the market but had unfortunately been left behind by her companions. He introduced himself like this, that he was a woman who was in a big problem. He had been left behind. So Gadadhar begged to be given shelter for the night. So Durgadas asked him a few questions and was satisfied with the answer. Then he said, okay, you can go in and ask the woman to find a room for you. So Gadadhar went inside the house where no man was allowed and the women were also not allowed to come out. So Gadadhar entered. He bowed down in gratitude to Durgadas and entered the women's quarters. And he introduced himself to them as a weaver woman and charmed them with his manner and conversation and all that. So pleased with their young guest's sweet words, the woman arranged a room for him and even served him refreshments and all. And as Gadadhar was eating, he minutely observed the rooms and the women, everything, because he had challenged Durgadas, no, I can know everything. He also talked with the woman and asked some questions, etc. So the whole evening passed that way. Whole evening. And nobody could recognize that this woman was actually Gadadhar. So whole evening passed and it was late. It became dark, you see. Now when it became dark, the people of Sri Ramakrishna's family became anxious. Where had the young boy gone? So now Sri Ramakrishna's brother, Ram Kumar, who had come? 1 minute. Yeah, Rameshwar. Chandra sent Rameshwar to go and look for Gadadhar. So Rameshwar searched everywhere. Then he came. First he went to Sitanath Spine's house and then learned that Gadadhar was not there. So as he passed Durga Das's house, he shouted Gadadhar's name loudly. I mean, he must have been traveling and calling out, Gadadhar, Gadadhar, where are you, etc. So when he came in front of Durga Das's house, he shouted that maybe Gadadhar was there. So he shouted, Gadadhar, are you there? Now Sri Ramakrishna heard the voice of his brother calling from outside and he realized that it was late. So what could he do? He shouted from inside, oh brother, I am coming. So when he shouted that way and when he rushed out, then naturally the secret was out. People knew that yet Durgadas, when he saw Gadadhar rushing out, he knew that he had been fooled. He had been outwitted by Gadadhar. Gadadhar had disguised himself so well. So he admitted. And when Sitanath and other relatives of Durgadas heard the story next day, they must have been very glad that Durgadas's pride had been crushed. So from then on, whenever Gadadhar visited Sitanath's house, where he was allowed, the women of Durgadas's household were also permitted. I mean, that custom was broken, that parda custom, due to which the women of Durgadas's house were not allowed to visit the homes of other people. So this rotten parda system, this was another way in which Sri Ramakrishna promoted this freedom. Just keeping someone bound to something does not lead to our growth. This is what Sri Ramakrishna demonstrated, that if anybody is to be protected, if women are to be protected, they can't be protected by keeping them bound to the house or keeping them bound to the rules. They should be given proper teaching. And then they will themselves use their intelligence and discrimination to protect themselves. That is what this incident shows. So this is a very interesting incident which I wanted to narrate to you. So next we will see some photographs also about the Sitanath's Pines house as it is today. I will just show you a photograph. Of course, it must have been a very big house, but hardly anything remains. There is just a small temple there. So this you can see, this is the temple which stands now. Of course, originally it must have been something else. And then another photo. This is the Vishnu temple which belonged to the Pine family. Pine means P-Y-N-E. That is the spelling. So now we will just, before ending, we will just, some small incidents we will discuss. So we have already seen that when Gadadhar was going to the temple of Vishalakshi and he experienced his first ecstasy, Prasanna, her full name was Prasannamai Devi, and she was the widowed daughter of Dharmadas Laha. Dharmadas Laha was a very wealthy landlord and a friend of Shudiram. So her daughter was Prasanna, who had become a widow. Dharmadas Laha had helped Shudiram during the rice feeding ceremony of Gadadhar, because these ceremonies, they involved a lot of expense. So Shudiram naturally did not have that kind of money. So Dharmadas Laha, who was rich, he had helped Shudiram greatly at that time. And his daughter was Prasanna Mai, a very spiritual lady. She had great affection for Gadadhar and many times considered him to be Lord Vishnu himself. So in Sardhanandi's book it is said that we have heard that Prasannamai and other elderly women experienced the manifestation of the child Gopala or Krishna in Gadadhar and loved him more than they did their own sons. So Prasanna was so highly spiritual that in Gadadhar she saw the manifestation of the child Krishna. She saw such a clear manifestation of divinity. And in later life, the master also thought highly of Prasanna's simplicity and spirituality. And many times, the master even told Holy Mother to follow her advice in all matters. So just imagine the regard which Sri Ramakrishna had. So this is the Durga temple of the Lahas. We have seen that Dharmadas Laha's daughter was Prasannamai. So this is the Durga temple of the Laha family. And this is the Vishnu temple which belonged to the Laha family. As we have seen, it was a very rich family. So all these places, the Vishnu temple, etc., and belong to the Lahas. This is the photo of Prasannamai. She was a very noble and spiritual lady. So Master himself told Holy Mother to follow Prasanna's advice in all matters. She often told Gadai, Ramakrishna in his childhood, that why is it, Gadai, that sometimes you seem to me to be God? Yes, I truly feel that you are God. So just imagine this poor lady with maybe very little education. She was also such a highly spiritual soul that she could recognize Sri Ramakrishna's divinity when he was a small child. And another person who recognized the divinity of Gadai was Srinivas Shankari. He was called by his pet name Chinu. So this is his house, this Srinivas Shankari. He was a maker of shell bracelets made of shell. And he was a very sincere devotee who recognized the divinity of the boy Ramakrishna and also secretly worshipped him with flowers and sweets as the incarnation of the Lord Vishnu himself. So many other incidents are there, but these are the most important ones. Many other details are also there. But naturally, we cannot discuss all these in detail. So this is how Sri Ramakrishna had bound himself to the people of Kamarpukur when he had bound himself to the people with the cord of love and devotion, even when he was a child. So it is said that, I just quote, he was tied with a loving and reverential relationship to all the neighborhood men and women, from the wealthy Lahars to the Brahmins, blacksmiths, carpenters, gold merchants, and others. His disciples, means Sri Ramakrishna's disciples, were moved when the Master at different times told them with delight about the love and devotion of the simple-hearted and devout Prasanna, the widowed daughter of Dharmadas Laha, the Master's childhood friend Gaya Vishnu Laha, who was the son of Dharmadas. So Gaya Vishnu and Prasanna were brother and sister. The sincere faith of Srinivas Shankari or Chinu, the devout woman of the Pine family, the blacksmith woman Dhani, from whom he accepted his first alms, that was Dhani became Gadadhar's godmother, and others. So they remained with him most of the time during Gadadhar's stay in Kamarpukur. So these are some of the important incidents of Gadadhar's life when he was in Kamarpukur. And next, now we will move to our scene will change because Gadadhar had to leave Kamarpukur temporarily. Of course, he visited again and again from Calcutta. He had to leave Kamarpukur and go to Dakshineshwar. So those circumstances many of us are familiar with, but we will again narrate them. How he came to Dakshineshwar, then accepted the role of a priest, first in the Radha Govinda temple, then in the temple of Mother Kali, etc. So our backdrop will change. We will move from Kamarpukur to Dakshineshwar next time. So let's end today here. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. So